George Washington, born in 1732 in Virginia, emerged as a pivotal leader during the American Revolution and was unanimously chosen as the first president of the United States in 1789. As a national figure unaligned with any political party, he was seen as a unifying force in a deeply divided post-Revolutionary War America. He helped shape the new federal government under the Constitution, ratified in 1788, and his leadership was marked by efforts to solidify national unity and establish precedents for the presidency. Washington surrounded himself with capable advisors, including Alexander Hamilton as Secretary of the Treasury and Thomas Jefferson as Secretary of State, both of whom came to represent opposing political ideologies. Hamilton championed a strong central government and an economy based on manufacturing and banking, while Jefferson envisioned a decentralized agrarian republic rooted in states' rights. Washington's administration dealt with major economic and political challenges, including national debt, the establishment of a national bank, and defining the federal government's powers. Hamilton's financial program aimed to assume state debts, establish public credit, and create the first bank of the United States. These moves were controversial, especially among those who feared federal overreach, and led to the formation of two political factions: the Federalists, led by Hamilton, and the Democratic Republicans, led by Jefferson and James Madison. Washington, though officially nonpartisan, leaned Federalist in practice, especially regarding foreign policy and economic matters. One of the most pressing foreign policy challenges during Washington's presidency was the French Revolution and the broader conflict between Britain and France. The United States, still economically weak and politically fragile, faced pressure to choose sides. Jeffersonians supported revolutionary France, viewing its republicanism as an extension of American ideals, while Hamiltonians favored neutrality, partly due to economic ties with Britain. Washington chose a path of neutrality, culminating in the Proclamation of Neutrality in 1793. This decision was unpopular among pro-French Americans, but ensured the young nation avoided entanglement in European wars. Washington also dealt with internal unrest, such as the Whiskey Rebellion in 1794, which tested federal authority. Farmers in western Pennsylvania protested a federal excise tax on whiskey, but Washington led a militia force to suppress the uprising, demonstrating the power and legitimacy of the federal government under the Constitution. His administration also negotiated Jay's Treaty with Britain in 1794, which, though controversial, helped avoid war and secured some trade advantages. Simultaneously, Pinckney's treaty with Spain in 1795 secured navigation rights on the Mississippi River and access to the port of New Orleans, which benefited Western settlers. Choosing not to seek a third term, Washington retired in 1797, setting a precedent for peaceful transitions of power. In his farewell address, he warned against permanent foreign alliances and political parties, though by then, partisan divisions had become deeply entrenched. The election of 1796 was the first contested presidential election in U.S. history. John Adams, a Federalist and Washington's vice president, narrowly defeated Thomas Jefferson, a Democratic Republican, who became vice president under the rules of the time. Adams, a New Englander and staunch Federalist, took office in a climate of domestic division and international instability. Adams's presidency was marked by deepening conflict with France. The French, angered by Jay's treaty with Britain, began seizing American ships. Efforts to negotiate peace led to the XYZ affair in 1797, in which French agents demanded bribes from American diplomats, sparking outrage at home and calls for war. Adams resisted the war fervor, choosing instead to expand the Navy and pursue diplomatic solutions, which eventually led to the Convention of 1800 and a peaceful end to hostilities. However, during the crisis, Adams and the Federalists controlled Congress passed the Alien and Sedition Acts in 1798, aimed at suppressing dissent and weakening Democratic-Republican opposition. These laws were widely criticized as unconstitutional and authoritarian, leading Jefferson and Madison to write the Virginia and Kentucky Resolutions, which introduced the concept of nullification, the idea that states could invalidate federal laws deemed unconstitutional. The unpopularity of the Alien and Sedition Acts, combined with internal divisions within the Federalist Party and Adams's decision to seek peace with France, cost him political support. In the election of 1800, often called the Revolution of 1800, Thomas Jefferson defeated Adams in a bitterly contested race that ended in a tie between Jefferson and Aaron Burr, his running mate. The decision was thrown to the House of Representatives, where Jefferson was ultimately chosen after intense negotiations, thanks in part to support from Alexander Hamilton, who considered Jefferson the lesser of two evils compared to Burr. This peaceful transfer of power between rival parties was unprecedented and set a vital precedent for democratic governance. Thomas Jefferson, who took office in 1801, ushered in a new era of American politics. He believed in a limited federal government, strict adherence to the Constitution, and an agrarian-based economy. Jefferson scaled back the military, reduced the national debt, and eliminated many Federalist policies. His presidency marked a shift away from the centralized authority favored by his predecessors and toward a more populist, decentralized vision of America. Yet Jefferson's ideals often conflicted with the practical realities of governance. One of the most significant achievements of his administration was the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. Though Jefferson had long advocated for strict constitutional interpretation, he embraced the opportunity to acquire the vast Louisiana territory from France, which doubled the size of the United States and secured control of the Mississippi River and New Orleans. This bold move challenged his earlier constitutional philosophy, but was widely celebrated and dramatically expanded the nation's geographic and economic potential. To explore the new territory, Jefferson commissioned the Lewis and Clark expedition, which set out in 1804 and returned in 1806 with valuable information about the western lands and its native inhabitants. This era of exploration and expansion helped cement Jefferson's legacy as a visionary leader, though it also laid the groundwork for future conflicts over Native American lands and the expansion of slavery. Jefferson's presidency also dealt with increasing tensions in foreign trade, particularly with Britain and France, who were again at war and frequently interfered with American shipping. In response, Jefferson signed the Embargo Act of 1807, which halted all American exports in an attempt to pressure the European powers to respect American neutrality. The act, however, backfired economically, especially harming merchants in New England, and proved deeply unpopular. It was repealed in the final days of Jefferson's presidency. Jefferson's 2 terms saw the strengthening of the Democratic-Republican Party and the decline of the Federalists, who struggled to regain influence after their electoral defeats and opposition to popular policies like the Louisiana Purchase. By the end of his presidency in 1809, Jefferson was succeeded by his close ally James Madison, marking a continuation of Republican dominance and a further solidification of Jeffersonian ideals in American political life. Yet the contradictions of Jefferson's vision remained evident. Between liberty and slavery, between limited government and expansive executive action, and between agrarian simplicity and the demands of a growing, complex republic. His tenure closed a formative chapter in American history, building on the foundations laid by Washington and shaped by the growing pains of Adams's administration, forging a distinct path for the young nation.